The Jets, your Jets.
What a ball game.
Traveled to Tampa Bay to take on my Buccaneers.
Scared you a little.
Genuinely did. And in fact, I didn't even know I needed to be scared until there were 90 seconds left in the ball game. The Bucs end up winning this game. Sorry, Jets fans, including my father-in-law. 29 to 27. Like you said, this game ended up being a barn burner down at the very end. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to kick this one off. Cornerback Jamel Dean had a big interception in this one with a 92.2. Safety Antoine Winfield Jr. next on the list with an 88.1. Edge rusher Yaya Diaby with an 86.5, and I'm going to break down exactly how he got that 86.5 here in a second. Wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, who you see just so beautifully with those jerseys there on the screen. They got to wear those things more often. They're phenomenal. 84.3. Are you a creamsicle guy?
Usually no, but I like those ones.
Okay. All right.
They've kind of modernized it a little bit.
They have. Wide receiver Sterling Shepard rounding out with a 79.1. Quarterback Baker Mayfield in this one, an 83.9. Great start to the season for him. On the other side of things for the New York Jets, linebacker Marcelino McCray Ball with a 74.6. Offensive guard Joe Tittman with a 73.2. Linebacker Jamian Sherwood, a 72.6. Offensive guard John Simpson with a 71.7. And then wide receiver Garrett Wilson, a 70.4. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor in this one with a 62.1, playing for the injured Justin Fields. Stat that told the story here, Dalton.
I'm going to tie together stat that told the story and most disappointing here because it just kind of goes in one. The Jets' secondary is really the biggest reason they lost this game. They have not been good through 3 games this season. 30.6 coverage grade as a unit in this game. 8 missed tackles, just 1 forced incompletion, 7 explosive passes allowed to a Baker Mayfield where you think, okay, if you cover well, this Baker Mayfield-led Bucs team, they're running essentially a completely makeshift backup offensive line. If you can cover at all, your pass rush should be able to get there and disrupt the game. The Jets just can't cover right now all the way across the board. Through 3 weeks, actually only the 3rd lowest coverage grade in the league. I was expecting it to be the lowest, but it's only higher than the Commanders, and I believe Miami, I think, is the other one. And honestly, my most disappointing, the one guy who had been playing well, of course, through 2 weeks, is Sauce Gardner. 30.2 coverage grade in this game, the worst of his career. Allowed 3 catches for 52 yards. Another explosive play that was negated by a holding penalty. Pass interference that was ticky-tack, to say the least. But
on Sauce?
It was a 3rd and 20.
Yeah, not a penalty.
Not a PI, but officially a 3rd and 29. That's another problem. I mean, so now it's the previous 2 weeks it was okay. Sauce is playing well, and everybody else kind of collapsed, especially in that Week 1 game against Pittsburgh. It was everybody this week. The Jets secondary right now. And you wouldn't think so because they have Sauce, they have Michael Carter, they signed Andre Sisco, who hasn't been great, obviously. You would think it'd be a little bit better. They spent a bunch of money on Brandon Stevens, just not been good through 3 weeks. And at the end of the day, even when they got a lead, that secondary just was not able to hold for long enough.
Yeah. I think the Bucs penalties also kept the Jets in this game. 14 penalties from the Bucs, 124 yards. Like that if you cut those penalties in half, this game maybe doesn't even get to the thrilling ending that we saw, which maybe was worth it. You got to give the people, their money's worth. So maybe they don't want to take that away.
It's part of the script.
It is, right, of course, because the NFL season is already, written out by the Illuminati. The makeshift Bucs offensive line, we've talked about it plenty. They survived well enough in this game. Hat tip to Josh Griswold, the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, who now in back-to-back weeks has really mitigated what is a major weakness on their offensive line. And it's like the Bucs are doing what the Dolphins wanted to do, sort of in theory, where they're just like, hey, we don't need the best offensive line in the world if we're getting the ball out super quickly with Tua into the playmakers' hands of guys who run, 4-3, 4-2, 40-yard dashes. And obviously it's not working in Miami because I think that they try to make that a little bit more of a long-term plan. It's at least worked over the last 2 weeks in Tampa, which is impressive still that they went up against Houston's defensive line and the Jets' defensive line, and it was still able to work the way that it needed to. But obviously it was a close game in the end. My most impressive in this one, because I want to say my most disappointing because I want to break it down a little bit more, but Emeka Egbuka was fantastic once again in this game. Unbelievable start to the season. I don't know where they would be without him, especially when Mike Evans went out of the game with a hamstring injury. I mean, they needed this guy first to step up as a wide receiver 2 with Chris Godwin out to start the season, and then he needed to be their wide receiver 1 when Mike Evans went out in the middle of this game. 8 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards. He is third behind Tetairoa McMillan and Tyler Warren in receiving yards and receiving grade for a rookie. It's I think, offensive rookie of the year. I know Bucs fans weren't very happy with me when I tweeted out really impressive Tetairoa McMillan catch, and I just said offensive rookie of the year because I think he's going to win it just because of volume. But it's going to be a 3-horse race between Tyler Warren, Emeka Egbuka, and Tetairoa McMillan. And obviously, my tweet did not have the context of being able to say all of those things. It's going to come down to the very end. Ultimately, I think Tet's going to win it because I expect him to play really well, and I think he'll have the volume just because he's going to get force-fed in that Carolina offense because he had another good game this week. But I just cannot take away from what an unbelievable job Emeka Egbuka has done, not only from a talent perspective, but also a preparation perspective for him to be able to step in right away as a rookie and be exactly what this team has needed him to be.
And his game at Ohio State, you could see it in all of his years there, was already so professional. You just knew he was going to be solid because of the way he approached the game and his skill set and everything that he can do on the field. Look, credit to Jason Light also for going, listen, everybody on the outside is telling me wide receiver is my biggest strength, but I'm just going to take the best football player on my board. And clearly that was the case there where Egbuka, hey, this is the best. You know what you do? You know what the draft strategy really is, Trev? It should just be on a banner everywhere. Draft good football players. It should be that simple. And Emeka Egbuka, without a doubt, at Ohio State, even though he was always number 2 at Ohio State, right? You had Marvin Harrison Jr., you had Jeremiah Smith last year. Which we'll get to later. We'll get there. Nominally at Ohio State, he was always number 2. Egbuka, I mean, just unbelievably clutch. I mean, you talk about, I always loved his concentration in tight spaces, the catches he's making in tight spaces, contested catches, the just outstanding catch on the corner route that really set up the game-winning field goal. Baker with a very, very good throw, but a little bit high that Egbuka had to haul in by the sideline. I mean, he is just so professional already. I think that's the best way you can put it. He doesn't look like a rookie at all.
No, he does not.
And really, even at Ohio State, he just constantly played like a veteran, and he made veteran plays. He's incredible. What's your new phrase you have now? It's third and Egbuka?
It's third and Egbuka.
It's just it doesn't even matter. Down and distance doesn't matter. It's just third and Egbuka.
I haven't looked up his receiving grade on third down yet, but if he continues to have third down catches next week, I will specifically look up what that is. You're most impressive. I know you want to talk about Baker. I want to talk about Olu for the Jets.
Yeah, I'm going to do 2 things here. One is Baker Mayfield, because 3 straight game-winning drives to start a season with basically no offensive line, and you're finishing this game with Egbuka and Sterling Shepard as your receivers, and they didn't run the ball well in this game because they can't block anybody, and the Jets' front 7's still okay.
Right.
Baker Mayfield just finds a way. It's unbelievable how he's another one. Oh, wow, they just blocked a field goal, and Will McDonald pulled a Cam Chancellor and jumped over the line and flipped this game upside down, and it was just, all right, I guess Baker's going to go win it for us. It's unreal. 10-plus yard throws in this game, and we just talked about they don't have any pass protection. 91.4 passing grade, completed 5 of 12 with 3 big-time throws, but the big thing is Mayfield understands is one of 2 things. Either get rid of the football, and on those 10-plus yard throws, he was barely over 2.7 seconds, or, and you mentioned the difference between Mayfield and the Bucs right now and the Dolphins and Tua. One of the bigger differences is that Mayfield can improvise.
Yeah.
He can improvise, and he takes off running, and he can actually run. Unlike Tua doesn't give you that with Miami, Baker Mayfield gives you the running element, and we've seen how many times now it feels like in the past, even just 8 to 10 Bucs games, has Baker Mayfield turned something around with his legs. It's unbelievable. I mean, we saw it multiple times late in this game that, I mean, he is just – you talk about willing a team to a win, and there's 2 teams in the NFL right now who are just, look, win at all costs. Do whatever it takes to win because we have so many. It's the Bucs and it's San Francisco, and they're both 3-0, and they're winning despite a mountain of injuries. What that does for you and what that sets you up for later in the season, eventually, when you get Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin, and now Mike Evans back, and all the guys and all the offensive linemen and everything, and some guys aren't even coming back, what that does to set you up for later in the season, while the Falcons apparently are struggling, and while the Panthers are struggling, and the Saints are the Saints, I mean, you really set yourself up right in games that at certain moments, actually in all 3 moments in these first 3 games, you weren't even supposed to win.
Yeah.
And he drags you out of the grave. I mean, he's just unbelievable. We don't have a number for heart and soul, but Mayfield leads the league in it.
Obviously, I grew up just south of Tampa. I grew up rooting for the Buccaneers. It's obviously very easy for me to root for Baker Mayfield because of that. But if Baker Mayfield was doing this with any other team in the NFL, I would be rooting for him.
He's a top
so
five.
Much fun.
He's a top 5 most fun player to watch in the league.
Yeah,
no question.
I agree. Especially when they're playing well, which the Buccaneers are here at 3-0. I do want to talk about Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle for the New York Jets, because this is a good offensive line through the first couple of weeks. They struggled this past week. Specifically, when I looked at the Grays, Olu really struggled. And Olu really struggled in pass protection, which that was his whole thing coming into the NFL. It's like, okay, he's not going to be a people mover for you in the run game, but he's going to be a smooth, athletic pass protector for you, and that's why you draft a left tackle like that. Well, in this game specifically, I thought what the Buccaneers did was a great job of scouting their opponent specifically in his weaknesses. So Olu, again, like I sort of just mentioned there, when he was coming from Penn State to the NFL, his whole thing was really quick foot speed. He's got good size to him, really good athlete, knows how to get to a landmark on his vertical and 45 sets to really be able to protect the outside shoulder, but he had the athleticism and the balance to be able to protect the inside shoulder from counters as well. The issue was dealing with power. When he would play Ohio State, when he was at Penn State, those Ohio State edge rushers, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, those guys, they would just bull rush him straight into his chest, and that's where you really start to see him get knocked back a little bit. Well, specifically in this game, the Buccaneers, who have Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby, they specifically put the bigger, stronger Yaya Diaby against Olu Fashanu, and what they did was because Yaya he is an outside linebacker type of an edge rusher. He will rush from that 2-point stance, which means he doesn't have his hand on the ground. So he's more from that linebacker stance. He can rush from like a 5 technique, 6 technique, where he's sort of right outside the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle to start. But in this game specifically, they push him out wide a little bit longer. And it's not like this is the first time they've done this. They do this plenty, but they emphasize it in this game. And the reason why they did that is because it allowed Yaya Diaby to get not only a runway, a couple of steps into converting his speed to power when he got to where Olu was, but there were a handful of plays where Diaby started the game where he was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go to his outside shoulder. I'm just gonna try to attack him around that outside shoulder. So you're forcing Olu to really get out of his pre-snap stance and basically as fast as he can, somewhat even out of control a little bit, get to a landmark so he can protect that outside shoulder so that Yaya Diaby can't get around him and into the quarterback's lap. Well, when you do that, if you are overextending on your kick slides, well, then you don't have the balance. Then you aren't as balanced and your weight isn't distributed as properly as it needs to be. So then what happens? Then Yaya Diaby goes to the bull rush. He goes, okay, I've forced you to stretch yourself to get to a landmark to defend me when I'm rushing from that wide alignment. Now I'm going to go straight through your chest. And that game plan worked very effectively for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they turned one of the Jets' best offensive linemen into one of their biggest weaknesses in this game. And I thought it was just a great job sort of scouting by Todd Bowles and that defensive staff, utilizing Yaya Diaby, Diaby himself getting in the film room and understanding how to attack Olu. And so every now and then I'll notice sort of those exact details of chess matches. And in this game, when I went back and I was like, man, Olu did not grade well in this game, I looked at the film, and that's why. So it was another hat tip to the Buccaneers coaching staff taking advantage of them.
Certainly. I'm gonna go back to the Ibuka stat real quick for you. So he's not the leader in third down receiving grade, but he is tied with Teteroa, McMillan, and a few others so far with 6 catches on third down. Take a guess. Who's the highest graded wide receiver on third down in the entire league right now? It's kind of an interesting one that we're getting to later.
Oh, that we're getting to later?
Well, I don't know if we're getting to him specifically, but he's been really darn good, I should say, through 3 weeks.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Nope. Good guess. You want one more?
That we're getting to later.
Maybe, sort of. I don't remember if we had him specifically written down, but he's a big piece.
Lad McConkey.
Close. Same rookie class. How about Rome Odunze?
Oh, some big catches from Rome this year. So I can believe
Rome Odunze.
I can believe it.
The highest graded third down receiver in the league so far. We'll get to the Bears later. Good showing from them.
Yeah, we are going to get to the Bears later. That was indeed a good showing from them.